Nigeria's Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee begins two-day policy meeting today. Mozambique's Central Bank reschedules its Monetary Policy Committee meeting for next month. Plus, Ghana plans to issue its first domestic investor-only dollar bond next month. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Lagos. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwawu. We'll begin here in Nigeria as the total value of capital imported into Nigeria increased by 46.58% to $1.04 billion for the second quarter of 2016. In a revised version of the capital importation report for the period, the National Bureau of Statistics explains that this contrasts with the preliminary estimate of $647.1 million for the second quarter. According to the report, the level of capital imported in June increased to $610.77 million, and that's the highest monthly value in 2016 so far. Further analysis reveals that the sharp rise in June in particular and second quarter 2016 over one quarter 2016 was due to a 115.12% quarter-on-quarter and 239.48% year-on-year rise in loans, predominantly to the oil and gas and telecom sectors. Portfolio investment appreciated by 24.45%, accounting for 32.37% of the total inflow, while foreign direct investments remained the smallest component, accounting for 17.68% for the period. And the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee two-day rate-setting meeting begins today in the nation's capital, Abuja. It is the most anticipated meeting as it comes at a time the country is deep in recession following disappointing data from the National Bureau of Statistics. The committee is expected to focus on the state of the Nigerian economy and decide on key monetary policy parameters. When the committee held its last meeting in July, headline inflation was at 16.5%, but that has since increased to 17.6% in August. In the light of severe and growing macroeconomic headwinds, the committee will once again be required to make tough decisions, almost unlimited policy options. The CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, will announce the outcome of the meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, September the 20th. And in Mozambique, the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee will hold its next meeting in October and not September as earlier planned. The Central Bank did not give any reason for the postponement, but says the MPC will hold its 9th meeting of the year on October 21. The bank lifted its main lending rate by 300 basis points to 17.25% in July due to soaring inflation and weakness in the currency caused by a suspension of foreign aid by international donors. Well, it's quite a busy week for most central bank governors as their Monetary Policy Committee meets this week. Of course, Nigeria's Central Bank Policy Committee meeting is ongoing. There's Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and of course, the Bank of Japan and the US Fed. Let's cross over now to Frankfurt Stock Exchange to see how the markets are gearing up to Fed and BOJ's decisions. DWTV Channels TV financial correspondent Janelle Dumalong joins me now. Good afternoon, Janelle. Good to have you back on the program, and I hope you had a beautiful weekend. Well, this week is a big one for central banks, especially the BOJ and the Fed, who are both holding closely watched meetings this week. Walk us through what is expected to happen. How is the market bracing up to their policy decisions?
Hello, good to be back. Yes, I had a good weekend. I hope you as well. Now, the BOJ and the Fed are expected to announce the results of these policy meetings on Wednesday. Now, in terms of what is expected, let's start with the Fed. So few economists or investors really expect the U.S. Federal Reserve to announce a rate hike soon. The more likely date is being pegged for December. Now, I saw a poll that said fewer than a fourth of economists thought that a rate hike was likely this time around. For investors, that number is even smaller. But just because that's the case doesn't mean they won't be watching the results of these meetings closely. They will be scrutinizing the Fed's statement for hints as to whether the mood towards tightening monetary policy is shifting. And yes, exactly. So in terms of the Bank of Japan going over there, the differentiating factor between the Fed and the BOJ's policy meetings is that for the Fed, the central question is clear. Will there be a rate hike or not? Now, for the Bank of Japan, that is a lot more nuanced. Their easy monetary policy hasn't really resulted in the gains that they were looking for. So in the end, the question of what they're going to do is a lot more complex. Many expect them to expand their monetary easing from to up to 100 trillion yen. That's $9.8 billion from the current 80 trillion yen asset buying program that it has in place now. It might actually also further deepen its already negative interest rates from minus 0.1 to minus 0.3. Now, but what's clear for both of the banks is that they're approaching a position where their respective monetary policies may have already been stretched as far as they can go, and they may have to turn to other policy tools. Investors will certainly be watching closely to see what those tools could possibly be.
Sure, and hopefully by Thursday this week we should be getting information on, of course, where the policy direction is heading to. Now, it's 1 year since after Volkswagen's Dieselgate scandal made shockwaves around the world. Are investors still bothered by the issue?
As a matter of fact, they are. Just today alone, truckloads of lawsuits have been pulling up to the court in Braunschweig in the state of Lower Saxony. That is the court that is processing all these complaints. And the court has said that they expect thousands more lawsuits to arrive on their desks by the end of the day. Now, there seems to be a bit of an artificial deadline looming in the minds of investors. Everybody seems to think that this is the time to get their lawsuits in place, or they will have to forever hold their peace. Now, what we can see now, what the court has said, is that around 10.7 billion euros worth of lawsuits have already arrived on their desks, and that's expected to go up this week.
Right, Janelle, just before I let you go, of course, the UN General Assembly started its meeting today. Several heads of states are there. What's on the agenda for the heads of states in terms of the world economy?
Yes, indeed. Several heads of state are there. U.S. President Barack Obama, French President François Hollande, and British Prime Minister Theresa May are set to talk about the refugee crisis mostly. So less of a focus on the world economy and more on the enormous migration numbers that we have been seeing. So this meeting also coincides with numbers released by the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, and they said that 1.65 million applied for asylum in the world, and a majority of those in Europe at 1.3 million. Now, the international community, it has been said, has been slow to respond to these major shifts in migration. Countries like South Korea and Japan have only taken a handful, while some have taken none at all, like Russia, putting lots of pressure on countries like Germany, which has accepted more than 1 million. Now, also, U.S. President Obama is hosting a second summit tomorrow of 40 countries, where the countries are expected to make aid pledges. So we'll see a lot of money hopefully coming out of that meeting, either in terms of allowing more refugees and upping the budgets for those, or via education and jobs measures. So generally the hope for the summit is that more safe havens are created for refugees and that investments are made into better resettlement conditions.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Janelle. We'll sure keep an eye on that meeting going on in New York. Thank you for your time, Janelle. I will take a quick break now. When we return, we will look at the developments in the Nigerian cement industry and, of course, expectations from the CBN's Monetary Policy Committee. To stay with us.